And we're back here at the Clean Power Hour, coming to you live from RE Plus 22 Northeast in Boston. And we've got some special friends here, including my co-host, commercial solar guy John Weaver, and none other than Nico Johnson of SunCast. Welcome to the show, guys.
Glad to have you guys in our RE Plus on-site studio.
This is awesome.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for having us.
Just one of the many perks of podcasting for 6+ years.
You get to travel to beautiful places. We're in the seaport in Boston. I mean, the weather's like 60 degrees. I just walked to lunch in a T-shirt.
No, you didn't. I thought we were going to call this the SunCast Power Hour.
It's the Sun Power Cast Hour.
I like that. Sun Power Cast Hour. SunPower might have a problem with that.
Well, they're not a real company anymore, so who cares?
Does SunPower exist? That's the question. Oh, one of the things we want to talk about today, though, is reducing the cost of solar, right? We want to not only meet but beat Australia and Germany, who apparently can install $1 a watt solar. And I've been reading the book Electrify, which is, based on some really wonderful research. And the author, whose name escapes me at the moment, is Australian. And I learned he was the co-founder of Makani, that kite company.
No way.
Kite Energy, yep, and Sunfolding.
Ooh,
He's one of the
Sunfolding.
inventors behind Sunfolding. They were going after a different market with Sunfolding originally than solar trackers, and they pivoted into tracking. I did not know that until I read Electrify. Great book, though, about electrification of everything. If you're into electrification and decarbonization, check out Electrify. And
So this residential thing. So I have a
Yes.
small residential company, and I will tell you the number one challenge for us is that it takes a month or two to go from shaking a hand to getting the paperwork done. Just like interconnection takes 2 months, and then a month for state incentives, and then another month for permits. In Australia, you drive up, you shake a hand, the next day the team comes up and installs.
Yeah.
Next day, like
So-
2 days.
So are we talking about reducing the cost to the consumer or reducing the friction? And do you believe that by reducing the friction, the waiting time, you'll also reduce the cost?
I have to hire 3 people to get through the friction before there. They don't do permits in Australia. They don't apply for interconnection.
well, I
Yeah.
think
They
it's
don't apply
like
for
an
install.
automatic permitting.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's like you show up, they're like, if you're incompetent, you'll get fired from the industry really fast somehow. I don't know the processes, but it takes 3 to 6 months to do a residential project. During that time,
Yeah.
so much work, so much paperwork goes on, back and forth, up and down. This structural, electrical, it's just, And
But
so
isn't Solar App going to solve some of these problems?
a solar app will solve a tiny piece of it, specifically the electrical permitting, not interconnection, not state incentives, and no procurement. So just one piece of it, the electrical permits with the local city.
Okay.
So we still have to do structural. We still have to apply for SMART in Massachusetts, and we still have to apply for interconnection with the utility. So that's one piece, and that one piece would take us, 3 weeks.
And structural is included in every residential system?
Yeah, you gotta do structural everyone. Absolutely. Gotta have you gotta have
But that's
PE
like
stamp.
the click of a button now, isn't it?
Not structural, electrical.
Aren't there firms that just crank out those structurals? Just
Yeah, but you still have to send a human out, climb into the attic, take
No.
the pictures, fill out the form, send it to the structural firm. They can turn it around fast, get it back to you, then you submit it to the city.
yeah.
So each of these things are real processes that take human beings who have an hourly wage, and it's something. It's something that's not trivial. And so
And I have heard criticism that there's a lot of junk being installed in Australia. So that's also a question: is are they getting a quality infrastructure or not? And I don't know. But
Here, how about a stereotype? The Germans are doing the same thing, and I guarantee the Germans are doing some quality installations.
yeah. So how are the Germans cracking this nut?
They have one document for the whole country of like 60 million people to do a residential. So it's a front and back page document, a single PDF, and
Yeah.
bam, install.
Yeah. So standardization. It does peeve me that the U.S. is like 50 different countries.
It's more than 50. It's
Yeah,
every
every
city,
AHJ, yeah.
every AHJ. Every
Yeah.
AHJ has some
How many
nuances.
HJs? 3,000?
Thousands.
Yeah.
So we just learned something in Rhode Island, and I don't know how we're going to deal with it. For the first time, and it's not even consistent. We have a project in southern Rhode Island, and the inspector said, listen, you have to do permanent attachments, arrestor hooks on the roof, because somebody might have to go up there and service it
Wow.
at some point. We just added 10 Gs to a project, a 50 kW, 10 Gs we just added to it. And for these things that are going to get used once.
Yeah, that's pretty silly.
And it's not even consistent. We install in Rhode Island, have been for years. Apparently this has been code since 2015. I am now shaking in my boots that a state inspector is suddenly going to say, hey, we're going to assess you some upgrades.
That's almost a form of corruption. Government is good, but it can be corrupted by capitalism in some cases. Capitalism captures government.
Yep.
And then sometimes there's just despotism, people that are ignorant and don't know these follow-on effects of small decisions. And if you ever question follow-on effects, for example, the internal combustion engine, great idea in the moment, faster, cheaper, better, but boom, fast forward 100 years, you have runaway global warming. So not a great idea. Obviously a very different problem. But we should probably talk a little bit about the show, why we're here in Boston, drinking Harpoon beer and looking out at Boston Harbor. What are you guys interested or excited about that's going on here besides a bunch of good meetings like this?
The number one thing I'm excited about today is that it's 60 degrees out. I'm wearing a T-shirt. I went for a walk to lunch. Oh, it was absolutely awesome. And just seeing human beings. I haven't gone to too many shows, and so it's nice to see industry people, shake some hands, and just walk around the floor again and, see the same old people, but we're seeing them, and that's just kind of cool. That's, for me, that's always the case.
I'll tell you what I love about these shows, and I think I may have talked about it with you, Tim, when I came back from Intersolar last month. For an industry that is still, in many ways, for many entrepreneurs trying to figure out what they're going to be when they grow up, the trade show gives some folks an opportunity to go and see what opportunities there are, what's emerging in technology, but it gives every single person an hour by hour, minute by minute chance to reinvent themselves and come up with the right message and the right elevator story, right? And I think that entrepreneurs need to, or business people, salespeople, need to figure out the right hook, because if we're going to accelerate this industry, every guy that's knocking on the door, as well as every developer that's knocking on the AHJ door, has to figure out exactly how to message the thing that you want to get accomplished. And this is it's a great little microcosm where you can test.
Yep.
I'm going to say this to this person and this to this person. I'm going to test all day long. All day I test whether or not I'm a marketing agency or a storyteller, or we have some other business version. And it's just fascinating for me to see how people react. And I talk to my customers and all my friends as well that are at booths, and I tell them, don't have just one elevator pitch. So for me, as a marketer, I'm excited to see how people modify and grow in their messaging when they come out of these shows, because you get an opportunity, if you're conscious and active about it, to test how people react to the way that you are presenting your message, the same way that someone who's knocking a door for residential homeowners can do that 15, 20, 30 times in a morning.
That's a great point. And I love that concept of the microcosm or the experiment. And yes, go to more shows, I say. And thank God we're coming out of lockdown and we can do that. Hopefully for the foreseeable future. I'm dying to go to a big show like SPI this September. And
Disneyland.
I wanted to ask the other thing that goes on is other kinds of experiments. Like I was talking to a big O&M company, and they're testing the waters on, well, what is the installed cost of, 150 megawatts of storage? Do you have any thoughts about that, John? What is the installed cost of 150 megawatts of storage? And on a kWh basis, have we breached the $100 a kWh, or is it $1? No, it's $100 a kWh, right? Which is kind of a holy grail.
So right,
$60 is
$60 is magic.
yeah.
Yeah. So right now we might have cells, not packs, I think, but cells right now are probably at $100 or less. Packs maybe right above 100, and these are for the biggest people, the largest buyers.
Yeah.
Tesla might be different because they're the biggest. Cadle might be different, but we're not installed a full system interconnected. Probably $250 for the biggest players. If you go to Tesla's website, you can get a mega pack for $450 quoted on the website right now. Put your money down. If you fiddle with the drop-down menu on Tesla's website, their mega pack site, you can do like a gigawatt hour system, and it's about $300 per kilowatt hour. So I bet I don't know, you can't call Elon, but if you were to call Tesla and be like, hey, we want to do a gigawatt hour system, it's probably going to be in the 250, 200 installed range for the biggest, best priced product.
Really? It's that high still?
We're talking installed. We're not talking the cells. We're not talking the
no,
pack.
it's all about installed.
Yeah, we're talking shipping containers, fire suppression.
Yeah.
Now there's these people like Fluence who install, and the Moss Landing facility, which is now caught on fire twice. So
Well, it wasn't a fire this week, right? It was a failure of the
Fire suppression system.
fire suppression system, but there wasn't flames, I don't think.
Well, there are
was
melted
smoke.
battery packs. So I read the reports. I read the reports that were put out.
Yeah.
And I read the document put out by the fire department. And 10-ish battery packs were melted. So what has been released and said to have occurred is that maybe a fan ball bearing failed, gave off a little smoke, set off a fire sensor, smoke detector,
Yeah.
which shot out a little bit of water, and then the hoses in between the battery systems that pump the water exploded, popped. They weren't pressurized properly and sprayed water all over the batteries, which set off a chain reaction of more fire suppression, more hoses exploding, more stuff shutting down. So now the world's largest lithium-ion battery is off. 400 megawatt hours,
Yeah.
1.6 gigawatt hours, not running. So
Yeah.
that's something we gonna have to work on that. Gonna have to work on that.
Yeah, I mean, that company is the one that's doing this big fleet of coal. The owner of that asset is doing this big fleet of coal to solar that I'm so excited about in Illinois.
That's Vistra.
Vistra, yeah.
Yeah.
And they are one of the largest battery owners now in the country. So it's a bummer that some of the tech still isn't working as it should. I will give a shout out to two of the storage companies I met on the floor today. One was Fortress Power, and one was Franklin WH. And Fortress has a C&I solution, 233 kWh in a container, and then they'll go up to a couple megawatts by just dropping in these 233 units, using liquid cooling, which seems to be a trend in large-scale storage.
Yep.
I know SunGrow has gone to liquid. Makes sense to me. Carry more energy away from the action in a more efficient manner, right?
So when my Tesla hit whatever I hit on the highway in upstate New York at 4:30 in the morning, causing
Yeah.
me to cry for extended periods, I might start crying again, folks. Sorry, it's very. Anyway,
For anybody who doesn't know, John's Tesla is no more,
No.
and he's now the proud owner of a Hyundai, right?
Yeah, I'm in the process of owning it. Apparently, buying a car and bringing it into the state of Massachusetts from New York is a bit of a headache.
Oh.
So I have purchased it. I will have it in 2 to 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So I'm renting a car, but whatever. I'll get
Yeah.
over it.
But so was the cooling system a
Damaged.
problem there?
Yeah. So it was ripped open. Fluid was shooting out.
Yeah.
The biggest issue is that I didn't know this, and so I'm still kind of moving the car around a little bit to navigate it. And so, I mean, in hindsight, it was an issue. In reality, it wasn't an issue at the moment. When it gets to the Tesla repair shop, Tesla said, hey, this car is dangerous. We're going to put it in the lot on the opposite corner, far away from every other car, because at any
time
moment,
bomb, huh?
yeah. So I guess they hooked something up to it and drained off all the energy, so that they didn't have an armed weapon sitting inside of their facility, and so that was liquid cooled. It had a greenish, it just looked like standard antifreeze almost. That was just being shot out of the car, because there was a hole in the battery pack, like just a nice chunky hole in the bottom of the battery
And
pack.
that's one of the things I don't understand about Tesla. You know how in my personal review on my personal YouTube channel of my Model Y, my gripe was the computer lies to you about your actual range. In the winter, it would say, oh, you've got 300 miles, and I would get 200 miles because it was very cold out. But that temperature regulation system, you would think, would make more of a difference. But anyway, obviously it takes energy to condition the battery, and maybe that's where the problem lies.
They actually have to heat the battery up in the winter,
Yes.
so that they could charge it at a proper rate, which
Yep.
I thought was interesting. I assumed that the battery might generate so much heat that it would be the inverse. And just interesting little nuances of owning an electric car.
Yeah, the quirks of lithium, it doesn't like to be too cold and it doesn't like to be too hot.
That's just kind of like me.
It really likes room temperature, like 70 to 90 degrees, and not less, not more.
90 degrees
Like
would
us
be nice.
humans, there isn't a good analogy there. We only have 8 minutes?
We'll just keep talking.
13 minutes. We're going to be on for another 13 minutes. It's an abbreviated Clean Power Hour. We had some technical difficulties getting on the live here, but maybe it's me, but I think software is a place I see innovation happening in the solar industry. I checked out some platforms for site
analysis.
Site
vetting.
analysis, yeah.
Yep.
GeoThink,
I saw them.
THINQ, which is apparently an acronym for something. I'm gonna get that guy, Christopher Nichols. Going to get him to come on the show. We'll learn more about that. And then a company called Landgate. They seem to be quite established in this and are being used by some of the big equity funds, these big asset owners, providing data intel on many aspects of real estate and assets. But so it's used for development, but also ownership and identifying projects to buy or change hands. What do you see on the show floor, John? What's in your crystal ball?
So I was kind of, for me, the show floor was from a practical standpoint because of my company and where we're at. We last night got our first zoning approval for a project, 6-7 megawatts up Middle State, New York, and it's now time for us to start talking about procurement. It's about time to start talking about engineering, fine-tuning, some better engineering than what we've done so far, and then start talking to construction groups. And so,
Does that mean you're buying dinner tonight?
I might, man. We're close.
Congratulations. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
It's for any developers out there, they understand this. It's a major hurdle to get that first significant permit.
Yeah.
And where you're getting the HJ to basically say, look, we think this project is viable in our community, and so we're gonna give you that basic permit. There's many other hoops you have to jump through.
Oh, yeah.
You have to look at endangered species in detail, and probably archaeological resources, and there's
We've done
half
those.
a dozen.
We've already done
those
the
are in
archaeological.
the can too.
We're done with zoning.
Okay.
It's now time to go to permits. Permits are easy. We know how
Nice.
to do design. We've got interconnection complete. We're pending the state of New York incentive program to come back. They've already roughly put it out. They're in a question period.
So is New York a block program like Illinois?
It is a block program, except so what they do, right now they're giving two things. One, they give you some cash up front, and then they give you a guarantee of a certain amount of revenue via what they call the value of distributed energy resources, VEDR. And so they have a nice little equation. They call it a value stack. They have the environmental value. They have a demand charge for lessening pressure on the local grid. They have price of energy. They have 2 or 3 other items that come in this value stack. And these 4, 5, 6, 7 things add up to your revenue per year over 25 years. And so it's, starts off in the regions that we're in, 7.5, 8 cents per kilowatt hour. Actually, it's under 8, closer to 7.5. And we get a little money up front.
That's the incentive. The rec incentive is 8 cents?
No, the rec incentive is 3 cents, 3.1. Okay. Yeah. So we get cash up front. That's the block portion. So right now we're in block 12. Well, it's what's going to come out. Maybe even block 18, 19. I don't know the exact number.
Yeah.
But that's some cash up front. And so you just, boom, there's some cash. And then the rest of it is just a guaranteed revenue stream. And so the rec, amongst all of that, is worth 3 cents. And there's no PPAs. So that's it. You find your buyer of the electricity, and this is what you get. You get paid this amount of money. And you can charge a little extra if somebody wants to pay extra for their energy costs. But, 7.5 cents seems to be a viable number to move things along.
If your state is casting about for a good solar program, just copy the New York State program. It is probably the most robust clean energy program in the U.S. today. They are blessed with something called NYSERDA, which is their energy organization, energy authority, and it is a full-blown research and development organization. They give grants to bleeding-edge technologies, green building, renewable energy. It's a wonderful thing. Every state should have a NYSERDA. We have the IPA in Illinois, which is good, but it can't hold a candle, as I like to say, to NYSERDA. And
I'm a big fan of them. So
yeah, and that's why New York is such a good market for solar development. If you're a community solar developer, you're very likely working in New York. If you're not, it's not too late. Or if you're looking for an easier place to develop projects, perhaps you should consider Illinois. I think getting projects permitted in the Midwest is probably easier than on the East Coast because it's less dense. There's just more open land. And it's flat as a pancake, so it's great for solar and solar trackers.
So one of the things that I was looking forward to meeting with, and I know you can't see it from far away, but this is Word rock drills. And I was happy to see
I saw those guys. I didn't talk to them.
Yeah, I had to shake a hand and figure out some numbers. Because in up middle state New York, we're going to have a combination of dirt and loose rocks. And we're going to be doing a lot of drilling.
Yes.
And so I just, I'm focusing on that. And so John Patterson, he's there, I think his wife, I think his daughter, and then maybe his brother. And so I was just looking at the drills, and I'm looking forward to using a drill. I know that just sounds really funny, but it's just like a nice piece of gear. So I'm just, I don't know. And it won't be me. It's not a human being that uses this. It's a giant machine that's going to be drilling down 15, 20 feet. But is just a cool piece of hardware, and I was glad to see them again and shake their hands, get some pricing information, because very soon we're going to be digging some holes and putting some metal in some holes, and hopefully this starts in Q4, and I'm looking for some good modules. Canadian Solar says they will have mid 600 watt modules. I hear from the tracking people that they're not going to have trackers that can handle these modules, so I don't know what the heck I'm going to do with them. We shall see, but we're looking for some high wattage bifacial 600 plus watt panels, and looking forward to that. That'll be soon enough. Q4 will be our first delivery.
600 plus watts.
That's what we're looking for. I just bought some 540s.
Nice.
That's the biggest panel I've ever bought. I just thought that was cool as heck. 540 watts bifacial, man. It was neat.
The sheet of plywood panels are coming.
4x8
Coming back. Remember we created the sheet of plywood panel at the Meta. It was a peel and stick, literal 4x8.
Oh.
Yeah. At the time, it was monocrystalline, 380 watts. If you can imagine, that's how far we've come with efficiency.
When was this?
2008.
We had a.
For peel and stick, it makes sense, right? Because it's a relatively light. I mean, I think one of the challenges with large format modules is they get really heavy.
Yes.
You can no longer carry them with one man or one woman, and So, and I'm sure the racking companies must be going insane because I don't know how well synced up those two industries are, right? The module makers are just going full steam ahead.
Yep.
Look, we're going to do bigger. And the racking companies are adjusting on the fly, and sometimes it works, but not always.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some,
there will be
problems
some.
in the field.
There are some unknowns still, and I'm hearing about the size of the panel is so big that the glass in the middle area, because glass is a liquid apparently. It's
Yes,
just
it
to let you know,
flows
it
very
flows.
slowly.
And because it's so big, the physics on these 2 to 3 millimeter thick pieces of glass is leading towards some uniqueness that we have to deal with. And it's just starting to bend a little bit. I haven't had to deal with it. Maybe they're structurally, they're figuring it out.
Yeah.
But, I read the reports from like DNV, GL, and stuff like that. And it's just interesting to see, first off, just these new products coming, how to deal with it, all the experiments with half cut, 3 cuts, 4 cuts, and how they affect the current and the amps and everything. It's, I'm not an electrician, so half of it's well above my head, but it's really neat to watch these giant panels. At some point we should just have like walls of just solar cells on our houses. I mean, it's just the building material will be solar cells. It will, like you guys just said, it's going to be a piece of plywood with some solar cells stapled to it or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to get to the story about your vertical racking project in
thinking the same.
Alaska,
We can
John,
talk about that
but-
right now.
but,
Let's do like 3 minutes because it's a fascinating one. But
Okay.
We're
Yeah.
gonna need to
yeah.
wrap.
And then we're going to wrap up and we'll tell you how to find the commercial solar guy and Nico Johnson. So vertical solar in Alaska.
Alaska,
What's
baby.
the deal?
So we found an RFP to a utility in Alaska. They were looking for 100-ish megawatts of solar. And we figured we're going to have to do something unique and special. It's Alaska. We'd already been doing research on vertical because there's lots of pushback from landowners in agricultural areas. And one way to mitigate the agricultural pushback is to have vertical panels that are 25 feet apart so you can drive a combine down the middle and do it for some hay. And so we were chasing that. And we had gotten familiar with the numbers, gotten familiar with the wind, gotten familiar with the costs. And then across comes this RFP. And we're like, all right, let's do some normal solar panels. This is a utility. We have to be adults. And our land guy, he's like, no, John, it's not going to work. Got to be smarter. Got to be better. And so we decided to submit vertical solar panels. And the company that manufactures the racking solution, they're a European company. I think they're German. It's called Next to Sun. So Next, the number 2, and Sun. And,
Yeah. When are they going to come on the show?
Okay, Tim, I guess that's the pitch. They'll be on the show. See, Tim does that. Tim does that every week. He's like, John, when are you going to get that company on the show? Hey, by the way, we're going to have Benchmark Intelligence, like the smartest lithium-ion battery guy
Yes,
that
we
I
are.
know of. Simon Moore is his name?
Yep.
Simon something. He's going to be on the show like March 14th.
March
13th,
10th.
March 10th. There we go.
Yep.
So, you're going to hear some serious lithium-ion battery knowledge.
are you live streaming every show now?
All of the news roundups.
Yeah. Okay. And so this guy's coming on the news roundup.
And then it's TBD if we'll do the interview live. If Simon is good with that, we will do it.
Simon has spoken in front of Congress, so he is used to being under pressure.
Question. So it's not like I'm assuming you're orienting these like trackers in north-south rows with east-west facing panels.
Yes.
Vertically.
So the rows go north-south, very, very long, 300-400
But
feet
it's
rows.
fixed.
And the albedo of the snow of Alaska.
Of course.
So we're going to have some amazing production. In fact, our initial numbers were super early. And this upcoming week, we're supposed to get our feedback. But we think with the numbers, we will have a higher power production ratio than with a fixed 30, 40, 50 degree system.
Wow, that's amazing.
Like over 1.0 is our hope. I don't know. We'll see, but I'm just.
We'll be tuned in to see if you guys win this RFP.
If we don't win it, I'm just gonna go away for a while.
Somebody in a snowy climate come have
Well, the
John
good
develop
news
a vertical solar
is
system.
Yes.
there were very few bidders on that project, probably because, in general, people are not paying a whole lot of attention to Alaska,
Yeah.
and they think, that's just too outside the box. So, In our last minute here, Nico, why don't you tell our friends who are listening and listening to this recording how they can find you and learn about all that you're up to in the world.
Thanks, Ben. It has been fun watching Clean Power Hour come to life and seeing you guys continue to do the one thing that matters in content creation, which is consistently produce content. So I just wanted to congratulate you guys for what you're doing. My podcast, if you're unfamiliar with it, the cover art looks like this. It's a sun with the word SunCast in it. You can find it on any major podcast streaming platform. Also, mysuncast.com. We've been publishing episodes for 2 weeks, or 2 episodes a week for more than 2 years, and we've got now next week will be our 450th episode with Mary Powell.
Mary Powell.
Yeah.
Oh, Sunrun.
So,
the big
so
wig.
subscribe now. Subscribe
Wow.
now so you can listen to Mary Powell. You'll get a little ping in your Spotify like I do when the Clean Power Hour goes live.
And she's famous for her work at Green Mountain Power.
Yeah,
That's right.
That's
Yeah.
But is
absolutely.
now the
She's
head
now the
of
CEO of
Sunrun,
Yeah.
which is awesome.
Biggest lady in the land.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's going to be great.
It
Looking
is.
forward to that interview.
Yeah.
She did great work at that.
She really
and,
did.
And of any CEO that moved into Sunrun, who is now a distributed utility scale company. I mean, they deployed 200
She understands.
plus megawatts in the last quarter. They deployed a utility scale project every
Yeah.
quarter.
Yep.
She gets distributed energy feeding into utilities.
She gets both sides of the aisle.
Yeah, it's so cool.
It's a really
great choice. Great
really
choice.
smart move, yeah.
Oh man, I'm a little envious of that. That's awesome. Good job, Sunrun.
I'm totally envious. And Mary, if you're out there, please come on the Clean Power Hour too. So, commercial solar guy John Weaver, how can our listeners find you?
I tweet way too much. Apparently, I ran the numbers recently, and I tweet like an average of 22 times a day.
Wow.
So,
Holy moly.
I don't have a lot of friends apparently, and if you really want to see a bunch of cool facts and data points, then you can check me out on Twitter, Solar and Mass. I'm on LinkedIn, John Fitzgerald Weaver, or you could just go to Google, commercialsolarguy.com. And as well, apparently, in the United States, I am the #1 search result for commercial solar consultant, and as well, Japan and Jordan. I now have projects in 3 continents.
Fun facts with
because
John.
of that. So, hey, just type it into Google or yell outside really loud.
Twitter's like being outside. Actually.
Sorta.
You never know what you're going to get hit with.
A lot
And
of yelling.
you can find all of our content at cleanpowerhour.com. And we also have a YouTube channel, so check that out. That's linked on cleanpowerhour.com. I'm Tim Montague. You can find me on Twitter, TG Montague. That's also my Gmail handle, which is my main email address. And you can check out my consulting business at cleanpower.group. With that, I will say sayonara, gentlemen, and we'll see you at Harpoon this evening. Thanks so much for being here, guys.
Cheers. Thanks for having me.
Take care, everybody.
All set?